All right, cool. So, yeah, it's Labor Day, and it's time for football season. I love the fall around here. The crisp, hoodies are back. Got the beard going again. So, um, yeah, that means it's time for football. So, the local football scene around here is a lot of fun. When we lived in New York, it wasn't quite the same, but in these kind of smaller towns, Western, obviously you get down into the South, same type of deal. But yeah, not that the Swamp Cup's all that competitive, but it's a lot of fun. Everybody shows up to it. So we're going to do kind of a Seahawks off-season review and then season preview. Just for anybody who hasn't really paid attention, a lot's changed. It's going to be a pretty exciting year. It kind of reminds me a lot of when Pete Carroll and John Schneider were kind of building the championship teams back in the 2010s. And so a lot of turnover, a lot of new stuff going on. So we're going to get into it and just kind of catch you up going into the new season on what all has changed. So we got this pulled up, but going into last season, was Mike Macdonald's first year, so we didn't really know how that was going to go. Obviously, really excited about it. He's been touted as the defensive Sean McVay, so kind of a defensive savant, but that doesn't make you a good head coach, and so. So we're interested in seeing how that played out last year. Obviously, we had Ryan Grubb, the old UW offensive coordinator that came in as the offensive coordinator last year. Aiden Durde came in, former Cowboys defensive coach. We brought him in as the defensive coordinator. So a lot of new stuff going on last year. And we pulled up the starting lineup, the day one starters, and just to kind of set the table for where we were at going into last year to where we are today 1 year later, it's pretty crazy the amount of change that's happened. Obviously, Ryan Grubb didn't survive the offseason, didn't work out. The offense was really up and down, no run game to speak of. Offensive line was not real functional. But we did also have who's the special teams? It's a Harbaugh as our special teams coach. I can't remember which one it is, but Mike is going to look that up for me real quick. But we brought in a Harbaugh as our special teams coach. So a lot of different things happened last year, and fast forward to this year. And this kind of set the table for some of the other stuff we're gonna talk about. But new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, and so if you don't know who that is, he was the offensive coordinator for the Saints last year, and I don't know how much you paid attention to the Saints, but for the first month of the season, it was the greatest offense in the history of the world. It was crazy. They were scoring massive amounts of points. It was a highly functional offense, and that was with, Carr is the quarterback who's now retired. Which one? What do we got there? Jay Harbaugh. So Jay Harbaugh, special teams coach. So good lineage there. A lot of knowledge. Also, I think was with Michigan when Mike Macdonald was there. So they were all under Jim Harbaugh while he was coaching at Michigan. So a lot of ties in there. But, so if you don't know, Clint Kubiak was the offensive coordinator for the Saints when they were setting the world on fire. Then everybody's, injuries set in. Everybody got injured. Carr has since retired. The general manager in for the Saints has been fired. So we were fortunate to be able to get him because everything started falling apart over there. They're going in with a rookie quarterback that wasn't really highly touted. New general manager, he just didn't think there was a future there, so we were able to snap him up. So I was actually had the opportunity to go to second game of the preseason and watch that. And obviously the preseason, there's a lot of vanilla offense going on there. But one thing that struck me was that the play design was really, really creative, even though it was really vanilla. The run game was really effective. I mean, gigantic holes. So it looks like a very high-functioning offensive scheme, which we haven't seen a lot of. We've had a lot of coordinators in the past where, it's kind of, let Russell Wilson run around and chuck it up, or just, a lot of hero ball going on. We tried to do that with Geno Smith, who played really well, but a lot of times we were asking him to, run around, make stuff happen. If the first read wasn't there, everything would start to fall apart. Really had no run game to speak of, so play action wasn't real effective a lot of the time. So, and then just at the level that everybody's executing the plays, you don't see a lot of missed assignments. I watch every snap of the Seahawks, all the preseason games, all of everything. And so it was really cool to see that it looks like we're going to have a really high functioning offensive scheme, which I don't know if we've had in a really long time. So the other thing that's obviously different going into this year is, we don't have any quarterbacks in the quarterback room from last season. Last season we had Geno Smith. We traded for Sam Howell. We traded both those players. We're able to get Drew Lock is back as the backup. Drafted, I'm blanking.
Darnold.
We signed Sam Darnold, and in the off season, and that's a really interesting move because what I think a lot of people don't really realize is that Clint Kubiak, and you can check me on this, but from what I remember, Clint Kubiak was Sam Darnold's quarterback coach when they were in San Francisco for that year that Sam was in San Francisco. So our offensive coordinator is familiar with what Sam can do, wanted to have him on the team. And in switching out Darnold or Smith for Darnold, we got a player that's 7 years younger. And I don't know if Darnold's the long-term solve for this or not, but they felt like they could get somebody who was, we were able to sign Sam Darnold at the same contract that we were already paying Geno Smith, and he wanted more money, which, I think he ended up getting in Oakland. So I don't know if you can look that up, what his contract ended up being over there. But so we got a guy who's got roughly the same amount of talent. I think, you could ask most people in the league from what I see, they're kind of the same guy, not as far as how they play, but as far as, overall talent. I think if you're ranking quarterbacks, they'd be right in that same group. So, we got a guy that's younger, same talent level, cheaper. All of the money on Sam Darnold's contract is almost all the guaranteed money is this year. So after this year, it doesn't hurt us at all. So, so Smith signed a 2-year, $75 million, 66 guaranteed. Yeah, I think that's a $40 million base salary. Yeah, so that's quite a bit more than what we ended up paying Darnold, which obviously gives us a lot more flexibility. I think we have one of the highest salary cap space numbers in the league right now. So I think we've been able to. I mean, John Schneider, man, that guy's unbelievable. So I have a lot of trust in what he's doing. So we have Darnold. And then we drafted Jalen Milroe, which is, I heard Jordan Palmer talk about this. He's a quarterback coach, trains guys at the college level, get them ready for the pros. And he said that Jalen Milroe's the most athletic quarterback he's ever trained. And he's trained some of the most athletic guys that are in the league now. So pretty intriguing prospect. Watched all of his snaps in the preseason. When he was playing against, other third string guys, really efficient, actually a lot more accurate than I thought he would be coming out. But that last preseason game where he played the whole game and people could kind of plan against him once they saw a certain amount of snaps. Definitely looks like a guy who's a year or two away from being an effective starter, but everything I've heard about him is, $36 million in salary cap space, so fifth in the NFL. So they've got a ton of space, and we'll get into some of those moves and how that played into all that space. But we got a lot of room. We got a lot of rookie talent. It's pretty exciting. So, Jalen Milroe is a really intriguing guy. I think somebody they're hoping they can develop for the future. Really fast, a really good kid from what I understand. He's, if you don't know, he's Sean Alexander's nephew. So really good character guy. Evidently works insanely hard, is, doing a lot of VR training and, just in the playbook all the time. So, totally different quarterback room. Running back room stays pretty much unchanged. Kenny Walker is obviously ridiculous when he's on the field, but I've been hearing that he's actually Charbonnet's been getting a lot of the first team reps. He's going to get a significant amount of the load. So if you do fantasy and you draft Kenny Walker, you probably want to have Charbonnet behind him. One, because he tends to get injured. And two, he's going to probably eat up a lot of the carries, get a lot of the goal line stuff. So, and then obviously, the guys behind that, I won't get into the lower string guys too much, but George Halani had a really good preseason, played really well with the ones. Pretty interesting guy there. And then the receiver room is obviously totally different. Last year we're going into it, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who's obviously a Seattle legend at this point, were the clear 1 and 2 guys. Jackson Smith-Njigba is coming into his second year, where he had kind of an underwhelming first season as a rookie. Didn't really do a ton. I think he had like 600 yards receiving. And so wasn't, at first glance, definitely didn't set the league on fire his first year. But, man, last year played well enough that they felt comfortable letting Tyler Lockett go. He's kind of a salary cap casualty. He's over in Tennessee now. And DK Metcalf, obviously, we're able to trade him, which I like DK, but I had heard a lot that in the building, they like DK, but they didn't, I don't think they were willing to pay him the money, obviously. So too many drops, too many penalties, too inconsistent. So I love DK Metcalf. I thought it was awesome having him here, but I totally get why they traded him. We got some picks, freed up a lot of money. Jackson Smith-Njigba kind of solidified himself as a top-tier guy. And then we went into last year with Noah Fant as our tight end. He's no longer around. He was released with the additions that we made at tight end this year through the draft. And then our offensive line, going into last year, we have Laken Tomlinson that we was a free agent acquisition kind of towards the end of his career. Really good player, but not for the long haul. Olu, who was played for Michigan, won the award for best center in the country coming out of college. Not the highest ranked prospect at the time, but still a really good player. And And he actually started day one, but we had signed Connor Williams in the offseason, which is kind of a big signing from Miami. Kind of a younger guy, really high-end potential, had played at really high-end, but we signed him after an injury. He ends up retiring halfway through the year, so that didn't end up working out. And Olu played pretty well. Anthony Bradford, George Fenn actually had to start for Abraham Lucas because he had an injury. So we kind of go into this whole thing. Last year we start with linebackers. We signed Jerome Baker from Miami, Tyrell Dodson from Buffalo, and those are our opening day linebackers. I don't think either one of those guys made it throughout the whole season before they were released. Draymond Jones, obviously, was one of our starting Russians. Nwosu. Jones is no longer with the team. Nwosu's been injured quite a bit. We bring in Rayshawn Jenkins from Jacksonville, and he doesn't really play that much last year because of injury and because of the emergence of Kobe Bryant at safety. So we kind of went into last year with a massive amount of changes, brought in all these guys, and most of them are not with the team, but I think it does speak to their process that they like to do. They like to bring in a ton of people, try to figure out what they want to be. So I think this is an exciting time. And so fast forward into this year, we'll leave last year behind, but I thought it was worth kind of going back and going, we came into last year with a ton of new people, new coaches, new everything, and, end up winning 10 games, almost made the playoffs, which I don't think anybody expected. We had a ton of mid-season changes, a lot going on last year. And so to play that well in probably the most highly contested division in football, there's not another division that has, this level of talent and this level of coaching throughout the whole division. So this is a tough division to win games in, period. And to come out with 10 wins, I don't know if we can duplicate that or not. But I do think we have a better football team going into this year and a lot more going on. So fast forward to this year, one big change that I noticed in the preseason as well is that we are going back to the fullback position. Drafted a fullback, Robbie Oots. We've got Brady Russell, who's always been a really good special teams guy, backing up at the fullback position. But watching the run game with a fullback, both those guys can catch. Kind of reminds me of, when we had Max Strong, John L. Williams back in the day, Michael Robinson during the Super Bowl years as well. So we're kind of getting back to that style of football, some guys that can catch. We in the preseason, there was probably 2 or 3 just wide open, fullback sneaks out into the flat, wide open, gaining massive amounts of yards. So it's just another wrinkle that allows them to, catch a defense off guard and get easy yardage. So, going into so at the wide receiver position, obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba will be the top guy. That'll be different. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Being the third string guy, essentially, the third wide receiver last year, all the attention's going to be on him. So it's going to be a different role. He didn't always have the top corner on him last year, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. We obviously signed Cooper Kupp, who, had, I can't remember what year that was, but had one of the greatest years of any wide receiver in history, several years ago. Be interesting to see after injuries and all that stuff. Getting older, not an old guy, but getting older, see what he has left in the tank. I think that's a big unknown. But the ceiling is obviously really high. I think it's a system that works really well for his strengths. And he's back home in Washington. If you don't know, he's a Washington guy, Eastern Washington, which not a ton of guys coming out of there into the NFL, let alone, putting up Hall of Fame type numbers. So he's in the mix. We'd signed Marquise Valdez-Scanlon in the offseason to come in and be our number 3 receiver. He was with the Saints with Clint Kubiak, so I was thinking, kind of a speed guy, kind of a guy that gives that deep threat. And so they were expecting him to be the number 3. Obviously, the OC was really familiar with him. And one of the reasons that we wait until Labor Day is so much happens the last week right before Labor Day. So a lot of developments there. And so he ends up getting released, signs with the 49ers. So we're actually going to see him next week in the week 1 game against San Francisco. They've had a ton of injuries in San Francisco, a lot at wide receiver. It seems to be the MO for San Francisco, a lot of injuries. So really talented team, really high-level coaching staff, a lot of injuries, a lot of money on that team. And so I don't think the depth is there like they've had in years past. So I think really, as you see the season play out, I don't think we know what Brock Purdy is really still. He was the last pick in the draft for a reason. I think he's played really well and a really great guy from what I understand. Easy guy to root for, but there's a reason you're the last pick in the draft. It's because you're not, you don't have as big an arm. There's holes in your game, and so I don't really know what those guys are going to be. They've lost a lot of guys. Deebo Samuel obviously left in the off season. We don't know what some of their rookie receivers are going to be. They didn't really do a whole lot. And Brandon Ayuk gets injured, so they're pretty thin at receiver. So yeah, I'm actually not real high on what San Francisco is going to do. I think that's definitely a team that we can overtake in the division. I think, Arizona has a lot of talent. Still not sure if Kyler Murray can be consistent enough to challenge for that top spot. It's, I kind of view it as, we're really going to be battling the Rams. And they're always, a Matt Stafford injury away from being very average. And that guy, man, how old is Matt Stafford? He's got to be late 30s, right? He's getting a lot older. I think they've had some injuries on the offensive line in the preseason. So, yeah, 37. Man, yeah, I think it's a win. I think it's something that is doable, but I think we've got so many unknowns on our team. We've got a lot of changeover. It'll be interesting to see how slow we start this year. New offensive system, a lot of new offensive players. But so far in the preseason, man, the execution has been really on point. The play design has been really creative, which is really nice to see. In years past, I can't tell you how many times we'd be watching a game being like, why would you run that play? It hasn't worked all day. Everybody knows it's coming. So we've had a lot of that in the past. I don't think we're going to see a lot of that going forward. I think it seems like a really intelligent coaching staff. I think the players aren't going to be capped by the creativity of the coaching staff anymore. So that's going to be really interesting to watch, at least for me. Wide receiver, I think one of the reasons that we let Marquez go was kind of the emergence of Torrey Horton in training camp. So wide receiver, I think we got in the 5th round this year. And I think he's from Colorado State, if I recall. He had a game against Oh, what's that guy that Hunter? That was like, I think he was like the second or third pick this year in Jacksonville. Um, yeah, I'm blanking on his name right now for some reason, but two-way player, high level cornerback. This was it. Torrey Horton was the only receiver to really put it to him in college. So I think we ended up getting him in the 5th round because he was injured his last year in college. A lot of people were saying he would have been a high 2nd round pick had he come out healthy. So he's played really well in practice and in the preseason. So he kind of took over that number 3 spot. Kind of a lighter guy, so I'm a little bit concerned about whether he can stay healthy. He's actually got injured in that 2nd preseason game, so we'll see what happens there. But Jake Bobo, who's also in concussion protocol, kind of a fan favorite. My kids love that guy, but big guy, kind of crafty. Had, I think, 2 touchdowns in that 2nd preseason game. Really, really pretty good player. Blocks really well as a wide receiver. So, he's got that 4th spot. Cody White and Ricky White. We've also I can't remember the other guy we got at wide receiver, but those guys all played pretty well in the preseason. But yeah, that's going to be kind of our top 4 wide receivers: Horton, Bobo, Cup, and Njigba. Kind of thought we might sign one of these veteran guys. That still may come, depending on what we have going on. But yeah, there's room to add another guy. But Torrey Horton really looks like he could be a solid number 3 there. And then, our and this isn't even totally up to date, but our tight end room's totally different. We'll bring Eric Saubert in from the 49ers, kind of a blocking tight end, but he can catch a little bit. He's played really well. AJ Barner, we picked up last year in the draft, and he's been a solid guy, kind of really good blocking tight end, but can catch a little bit. Had a couple touchdowns. Noah Fant obviously isn't with the team anymore, but Elijah Arroyo, kind of touted as this really athletic tight end out of Miami. So we've got kind of a more athletic. I mean, Noah Fant was athletic, just never was as productive as his ability, and ultimately was too expensive. And so we've got all these guys on, low rookie contracts, which is awesome. So I really like Barner. Saubert's played really well. We'll see what Arroyo becomes. But then offensive line's all set. There was a lot of competition in there for those positions. Obviously, Gray Zabel was our number 1 pick. Watched a bunch of analysts talk about him. Brian Baldinger is really high on him. Watched some of the tape from some of the preseason games, and he's playing against starters, guys that really can rush the passer, and he's held up really, really well. I mean, I can't think of any penalties that I remember him having. So really clean player, really, really good technically, strong guy. Everybody seems to like him a lot. So yeah, that seems to be a guy that we'll probably have in the lineup at that left guard position for a decade or more. So I think we kind of nailed that, and hopefully that's the case. But man, those guard spots were really brutal for us last year. It's kind of always been an issue ever since Hutchinson, left. We haven't had a really strong guard situation. So that's pretty exciting. Charles Cross, I think this scheme bodes really well for his ability. Olu is actually injured right now, and so Jalen Sundell will be our starting center. He played really well in the preseason as well. So got a couple solid guys in there. I don't know what they'll become, but they've played pretty solid. I heard that Christian Haynes was really pushing Bradford for that starting right guard spot, but then was injured as well. And so Bradford's going to be in that right guard position, but we've got some pretty good depth. It sounds like. I mean, our backups at the center and guard position, and those guys can play the other guard positions as well. So it sounds like they're as good, if not better, than the guys who are starting right now. So again, our offensive line has been kind of in that bottom third of the league for quite a few years now. It'd be nice if they were at least serviceable. If we can give, one thing I also noticed about our offensive scheme is that a lot of quick reads so far. We're not asking the line to be world beaters. They just need to hold up for a short period of time. A lot of quick reads. Sam Darnold's really accurate with the football. So I think there's going to be a lot of that, a lot of quick hit stuff. I think it'll be, more akin to, what you used to see with the Patriots, where they just kind of do these, 13 play drives down the field and just kill you 5 yards at a time. I think there's going to be a lot of that. And then, if our run game is strong, like I think it can be, it looked really good all preseason. So we'll see if they can duplicate that in the regular season. But if we can do that, it'll open up the play action. I know that with the Saints, that was kind of the formula. A lot of, quick passing, and then you move those safeties and linebackers in to stop the run game and the quick passing game, and then they just torch you over the top. So that's kind of the I think what we're going to see. I think that's kind of been Seahawks football in the past. Couple tight ends, strong offensive line, fullback, but all those tight ends can catch, all those fullbacks can catch. Just opens up a lot of options, makes it really difficult to defend, and then a lot of really. If you notice, we don't have a lot of huge receivers, big athletic receivers. We don't have a lot of burners. It's a lot of guys who run really clean routes, really good hands. And so I think what we're going to see is, we're not going to have these guys that are just going to beat people off the line for these deep plays. There's going to be a lot of, our deep balls and our big plays are just going to come off a scheme. They'll get open because they'll be able to put up a double move on somebody on the play action, and they'll be open. So I think that's kind of the plan. It's kind of what Seahawks football has always been in the past, which is a lot of fun. I love that kind of football. And then hopefully, everybody on the offensive line can stay healthy. They can gel. But yeah, it's pretty crazy with all the moving parts to see how well everybody executed all preseason. If that's any indicator, it seems like the coaching's on point. People are really buying in. It's another thing that I noticed that was really cool to see is, all preseason when anybody would do anything, the whole bench was like coming onto the field. I think it was the first 2 preseason games. We got a bunch of penalties for everybody clearing the bench and running into the end zone. And obviously, in the preseason, who cares? But it just seems to speak to they got a cool culture going on there. Every time the Seahawks have been good, there's been a really cool closeness and a lot of energy and excitement about everybody performing well, a lot of intensity on that level. So, it's got a lot of those same feels as the, Legion of Boom years, even some of the years, with Sean Alexander and Matt Hasselbeck and those guys. It just kind of has that same feel as far as a team spirit aspect. So, there's a lot of cool stuff going on, I think, on all levels, but a lot of new things, a lot of moving parts. It'll be interesting to see how all that plays out, especially the first month of the season. It could be ugly, or it could be something where we get the benefit of nobody knowing what we are at this point. We could take some teams by surprise early on, and we'll see if we can get good enough, fast enough to stay competitive throughout the winter. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, Obviously, signing Leonard Williams to that long contract. I mean, that guy should have been. I mean, he should have got a ton of votes for Defensive Player of the Year last year. I mean, insane. One of the reasons we kind of held off on doing this until this week was there was a lot of buzz about Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals maybe being available. Micah Parsons maybe being available. There's a connection there with Aiden Durde, our defensive coordinator who coached him in Dallas. And there's a lot of buzz. I was hearing from people who are more familiar with inside the building in Seattle that was not likely to happen. But, Schneider has a way of coming up with those things out of nowhere. So wanted to see if any of those things materialized. They didn't. Obviously, Parsons goes to the Packers, which is crazy. I guess that will make it one more year that the Cowboys are not going to the playoffs. Hendrickson re-signs on kind of a one-year deal in Cincinnati, so this is probably his last year there, but he's also getting a lot older, so there's a lot of buzz about those things, but at the end of the day, we end up with the same defensive line that we've had, which when healthy is pretty interesting. Jaron Reed, comes back last year, real solid player at tackle. Leonard Williams, obviously one of the best defensive players in the league. We pick up DeMarcus Lawrence for some rush end support. Older guy, still really effective. Evidently an awesome mentor in the building. We've got some young guys at that position as well. So always really nice to have a veteran guy who's willing to help the younger guys when you have a really young team. I mean, I think he's worth having in the building just as an extra coach. And it sounds like he can still be really productive. We've still got Mike Morris, who we've seen be able to rush the passer. Derek Hall had a really nice year last year. Had good sack numbers. Had some fumble recoveries, some caused fumbles. Had a touchdown, kind of a scoop and score last year. So he's been a really good player. Still a young guy. I believe he's in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken. So that always motivates guys, so we'll see what happens there. Totally different linebacker group from day one last year. If you watched it all, Ernest Jones, we were able to get him from Tennessee last year. Our defense was not good in the first part of the year. Ernest Jones shows up, really kind of ties the whole thing together, and we moved into a really respectable kind of middle of the pack defense against the run once Ernest Jones showed up. Tyrese Knight, who was a rookie last year, played really well, so he should be getting better, although I think he's dealing with an injury right now. But those two guys, Tyrese Knight is kind of an unbelievable athlete, kind of came from a smaller school, so he's still kind of learning the NFL game, but a lot of potential there and played really well actually last year. But yeah, Ernest Jones, really high-level player, really high-character guy from what I understand as well. So it seems to be kind of a theme. They got a lot of these like work really hard, high-character guys, good guys in the building. Boye Mafe, who's same thing, just an athletic, high level athlete. Guys really started to figure it out. It's going to be really cool to see what happens with these guys with another year working with Mike McDonald under their belt. And we'll see if Nwosu can stay healthy. Still a super talented guy when he's on the field. Had a lot of injury issues, so we'll see if he can contribute this year. But all in all, there's a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of guys on that front that can get to the quarterback. Byron Murphy, now in his second year, played kind of a support role last year, but they're still really high on his talent. I think I kind of expect to see him become a major factor this year. So that would be really exciting if he could kind of come into his own in this second year. Who else do we have on there? We still have Devin Witherspoon. I mean, that guy's he's the Richard Sherman of our defense right now. Sets the tone. I mean, just he's so fun to watch, flying around there. We've got it. It gets contagious when you have a cornerback who loves to tackle and blow people up, because usually those guys don't love a lot of contact, and so it's nice to have a tough guy in there. Rick Woolen, I'm really interested to see, as he's getting into these contract years here, if he's going to make that jump from a guy who can be great sometimes, I mean, high level great, and then other games where kind of disappears. Been really up and down. Doesn't seem to always be in the right spot. Kind of has these lapses, but then will make these unbelievable plays. Again, super athlete, really high level speed, really high level length. If he can put those other things together, he kind of has the makeup to be one of those all-time great talents. If he can bring the rest of the package together. So, I mean, that's another thing I'm kind of looking for, is see what he can do this year. If he can kind of put the mental side together, be more consistent, be in the right position more often. And then Kobe Bryant, was kind of, they drafted him out of college. He won the award for best corner in the nation that year when he came out, but not quite as talented maybe physically as some of the other guys coming out. And but man, that guy is a turnover creating machine. I mean, he just always seems to be getting the ball out. We brought other guys in to try to fill that second safety spot, and he kind of went from a guy who was a nickel, they weren't really sure where to put him, to kind of establishing himself as that number 2 safety. I think we actually have a really solid Julian Love, obviously a Pro Bowl player, again, super high character guy, and really smart, super good. So yeah, we've got a really solid back end. Our defensive backfield's really good. I think they're trying to figure out, getting the linebackers and the defensive line on the same page, but I think that's going to get worked out, or probably has been worked out this offseason. So yeah, really, really exciting time to watch the team. There's so many moving parts. There's a lot of upside potential. I really think that the downside potential is lower. I mean, when you have a younger team, generally less injuries, generally, what you'll get is more errors. But I think our coaching staff is looking like we're going to have one of the higher level coaching staffs in the league, which, I mean, this league is a coach quarterback league. If you have a high level coach and a high level quarterback, you're going to be in the playoffs. We'll see what we have with Darnold. I think he showed last year he can be high level. Obviously kind of disappeared in the playoff game, had a really rough game, but he's won games like that in college. He's been around a while now. I think he's been on a lot of really dysfunctional organizations up until he got into Minnesota last year. First time he really got playing time with a high level coach. And I think our offense is going to allow him to kind of approximate that. I mean, there was MVP talk last year with Sam Darnold. So if he plays, approximately that well for us, I think we've got a really good chance to actually contend for the division title and, maybe win some playoff games. I think I think for a Super Bowl, I don't think we're nearly to that spot, but I think it's, I think we have one of those teams that lightning in a bottle, anything could happen. But I think we're kind of trending in a direction that's really positive. I think the general manager and the coaching staff, they're building something that they seem to have a really good idea of what they're looking for. So we'll see if that works. Again, I think if I was a betting man, I would probably have us finishing at second, getting into the wild card. I think that's most likely where we're going to end up. I think we can make the playoffs. Absolutely. I know the Vegas odds aren't real high on us right now, but I don't really know how you evaluate a team like Seattle at this point. There's just too many unknowns. So I think that's one of the reasons why you get that an optimistic view of what they might be over the course of the season. What's our strength of schedule right now? If you could look that up. A lot of how your team finishes doesn't have that much to do with how much better or worse they are in a given season. I mean, you're going to see, Washington and Philadelphia in the NFC East racking up tons of wins because Dallas is probably going to be terrible. The Giants are terrible. You're probably going to have, so you don't even know how good those teams are. I think Washington's on the upswing. Jaden Daniels is unbelievable for as young as he is, and how much they've lacked on talent. So I think with an off season under there behind him and another year in that system, it'll be interesting to see how he does in his second year. But being in probably the hardest division in football, and then I don't know who we're playing, what our strength of schedule. So we have the 21 hardest in the league, which is good news. So we're playing the NFC South, which is generally not good. AFC South, generally not great as well. So, NFC South, Atlanta, the Saints. The only real good team in the NFC South is Tampa Bay. Carolina's NFC South. So there's a lot of winnable games there. I think we can definitely. Is that? Can you pull up the schedule for the whole year? I think that game in Tampa is very winnable. I think it's more winnable at home, obviously. That's a long trip, and depending on when we play them too, the humidity can be a beast. We have not fared well in September games in Florida over the years, but yeah. So the NFC and South and AFC South were the two weakest divisions last year. And I don't know that they've gotten significantly better. Not very well-run organizations. So, yeah, week one, we'll just kind of wrap up with this, I think. Week one, starts this Sunday against San Francisco. I think week one of the season, you can't really take anything away from it because everybody's still figuring everything out. It's early on. All those years the Patriots were winning Super Bowls, they were not that good in September, but they were lights out the rest of the year. So, similar with the Chiefs, you can always, win a game against the Chiefs early on, or, the Eagles of late. You can win those games early on while they're getting things going. But once they get dialed in, that's where you see how good people are. So San Francisco, that's definitely a winnable game. Like I said, they got a lot of injuries right now. It's a home game, which is going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of history there. But yeah, to start the year off with that kind of rivalry, anything could happen. So win or lose, I wouldn't take too much away from it. I look a lot more at what they're looking like. Is that something that they can build on? Do they look dysfunctional? So that's kind of the stuff I look for the first game of the year, but that's a winnable game. Steelers, man, another fun game. DK Metcalf heading out to and then week 2 is a great time to be going out to Pittsburgh because it's still warm enough. Those games get tough to win later in the season. So, having Aaron Rodgers brand new, having no George Pickens, you got DK Metcalf, a lot of new parts there as well. That's a really winnable game. Saints obviously is a winnable game. Rookie quarterback, new coaching staff. Obviously they're missing there. So I mean, all these games, it's the storylines are crazy. Our offensive coordinator going back to New Orleans where he was setting the world on fire last year until injuries just decimated the whole team. So he'll be hosting them at his new squad. So, there's a lot that he knows about how they work, what their players are like. So that's going to be really good. Obviously, the game against the Steelers, our coaching staff's going to have a real good idea of how to pin up Metcalf more so than probably a lot of the rest of the league. And he's really their big weapon. I mean, they don't have a whole lot going for him on offense, I don't think, other than that. So that'll be interesting. Another rivalry game against the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. So primetime game there. Again, very winnable game, especially in September with all the things they have going on there all the time. But you never know. I mean, there are plenty of games where Kyler Murray's been real trouble for us. So, but yeah, I think the defense is going to be a strength. I think our offense is actually for the first time going to be really solid in a while. So Tampa Bay, week 5, that's good. Early October, not going to be crazy hot. So that helps, and it's at home. So that's a winnable game. Jacksonville's a very winnable game. Still, yeah, at Jacksonville, early October. Houston, same thing. Houston's a good team, but we're not sure exactly what they are yet. And then the bye right in the middle of the season, that's kind of nice. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Washington, that's going to be one of the tougher games that we have in that early part of the season, I think. So Washington's kind of going to be the first test, but that's going to be a Sunday night football game in D.C. So that'll be a good one. Tennessee, we'll get to see our old friend Tyler Lockett. And Atlanta, again, a very winnable. Washington Husky fans will be able to see. Man, I'm blanking on his name right now. Let's see. What's their starting quarterback?
Bergman.
Yeah, holy cow. I didn't have enough coffee. I was just talking about this guy like an hour ago, and I can't remember his name at all. Yeah, former Huskies starting quarterback is going to be the starter there, assuming he's still healthy. Minnesota, pretty tough game, but again, rookie quarterback. We don't know, what he's going to be coming off an injury where he didn't play at all last year. So this is going to be his first season as a starter. AJ McCarthy, and again, a lot of familiarity on Seattle's coaching staff with AJ McCarthy as he was the starting quarterback at Michigan. So a lot of storylines that intersect there as well. Michael Penix, holy cow. Yeah, so Michael Penix, yeah, so that'll be fun. A fun game to watch. You can root for Michael Penix to do well and root for the Seahawks to win. So, yeah, and then we get into the later part of the year. A lot of games in our division, as always, that are really going to determine how the division shakes out. But yeah, Los Angeles. But yeah, I mean we've got a very winnable schedule. So I think, man, if I was betting, I would say we're definitely over 500. I'd feel really good about that. if we can win those extra 2-3 games somewhere, which I think is definitely possible. They're very winnable. A lot of the teams that are the most difficult on our schedule, we have at home or at good times of the year to play them, or we're on prime time, which really, I don't know why it does that so much, but really changes the dynamics. I mean, anybody can win on those primetime games. So, I think so my thoughts on the team, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what we have going on. Probably one of the more interesting years in a long time to watch. I think a lot of reason for optimism. And I not just because I'm a homer, because I totally am, but I think there's a lot of reason to think that they can get in as a wild card. I think LA's roster is such that they're a couple key injuries away from being very average. I mean, I think you could say that about almost every team, but they've got an aging quarterback, but that guy's tough and he's so good. I mean, Matthew Stafford's ridiculous. That guy's unbelievable, but he's 37, and in football years, that's like 100. I mean, that's old. So, but yeah, that guy's still got a cannon there. If they sustain significant injuries on that offensive line, which they've already got some guys out, it sounds like, that could be tough to get their offense going. And I also think, I mean, our defense, I think it's very probable they're going to end up as a top 10 defense, which we haven't had in a little while. And that's going to make a huge difference. If our run game can get back up into that higher level, because it's been almost non-existent. We've had a ton of talent at running back, just haven't had the scheme and the offensive line play to be able to get it done. But I think if nothing else, the coaching staff and the general manager are fully committed to, obviously spending a first round pick on probably the best lineman in the draft. Continuing to invest in the running back area, continuing to get receivers and tight ends that can help block, investing, in draft capital with a fullback and going to that. I think they're committed to having the run game work. If you can run the ball really well and play really high level defense and not turn the ball over, which again, it looks like that's kind of the scheme, you can go a long ways in the National Football League. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism, and just going to be a fun year to watch, see what all these guys can become and what all we're going to look like for the next 10, 15 years. So I think this is kind of that first season of what the Seahawks are going to be for a long time. So hope that helps. Hopefully that catches everybody up with all the stuff that's gone on. But yeah, the plan is, to kind of do a post-game download on the channel. So if you want to hear our thoughts on how the team's playing, what's coming up, injury updates, just a preview of the upcoming game, we'll be dropping those as well. And we'll try to keep them short, something you can listen to real quick. So, all right. That's a wrap for me. Enjoy the season.